Okay, another video from Norwich 93 CMP for the data sheets broken down into sections. This is going to be about the barrel band, the front sights, and the rear sights. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the barrel bands. These are the narrow ones, which is this one here. And they're looking for marks on the band itself. The marks are usually in this location. And if it's upside down, I'll annotate it on the paper just like it is. That I see it this way. I've seen UIs upside down. I think U's upside down, maybe something else, I'm not sure. But I would also annotate, like I said before, is put a little footnote and throw it on the back. Notice what color it is. Like this one's blued. This is middle of the ground blued park. This is a straight up park. Always put the color down. The swivel itself sometimes have marks on it. Couple to show. Couple to show. So KVB, this one's a UN. Write it down. This one here is serifed, so I would put it serifed on the paper, right in that block right there. Do it the same way that you see it. Sometimes that makes a difference. What's called a B band, or the type 2 band, is this thicker one. Now the markings that I've seen is in this area to here, and then some over in this flat area over here. I also describe in a footnote like these weld marks that go through the nut and into the band itself. Sometimes they're higher than the screw, sometimes they're the middle of the screw, sometimes they're small, sometimes they're very large. But I'll also put that, maybe draw a picture underneath. That's the type 2 band, also known as the B band. I do at this time, I want to show you a difference between the one band here and the screw that's going for the swivel there, and the screw that's in the bottom of the band. They're different sizes. They're both cut. They're both cut so that it can be used for a piece of brass to unscrew these. But the type 1 that's on the list for the data sheet is longer than the type 2s and the type 3s that are on the sheet. Okay, don't get them confused. This should not be able to be backed out. It should be upset on the side. Don't ever try to pull them out. The 3s obviously is the Bayonet Log. I've seen markings here, a little bit lower, and the opposite sides. Again, like with the number 2s, I would talk about the welds if you have to. I've seen them on the curvature here for marks and on this flat. And then I've also seen the bottom here marked. So it talks about the lug itself. So put the marks in there. There are some other things if you want to talk about the color, put it on the back again. If this was replaced with something different, you can write that as notes on the back. And that's the type 3 band. If you have any questions about the band, just put it in the comments and I'll get to it a little bit later. And the last thing I want to talk about with the windows of the swivel itself. So the type 1 bands, it says sling window width. Okay, they're talking about the swivel portion of it. The one on the left is a lot thinner, about 1/4 of an inch. And the one on the right is larger, later, about 5/16 of an inch. If you can't tell the difference, this one here, trying to look for here's one right here, carbine sling. If you put it through it, obviously is going to be a lot more. It's about just a little bit over half the thickness. But if you take the type 2 and you have a GI sling, it's like 1/3 to 1/4 almost. So that's just one way, if you don't have anything to measure, to tell the difference between this is a type 1 narrow, 1/4 of an inch, and this is a type 2 about 5/16 of an inch. Now the barrel bands themselves, the first part talks about line or no line. Well, what are they talking about? What they're talking about is this line right here, that when they make it and produce it, it's just part of it. So they want to know if it's a line or no line. Then after that, they want to know the tips. So if you look really close, this tip is rounded and flattened off and it's almost straight at the top. This one is rounded on all sides and pointed. See the profile differences a little bit? That's what they want to know here. Which tip? Line or no lines? Now we're going to go into the front sights. Milled, stamped, cast. Milled is very thin versus a stamped. Stamped are a lot thicker around this edge. Piece of steel. That's one way to tell the difference between the two. Milled is also one piece in here, where you can see there's 1, 2, 3 pieces put together. At the top, usually the type 2s are very flat here, where the type 1s, milled, have ridges. I've never seen a ridge on a type 2 or a stamped. Type 3 is a cast. This one has a mark RIA on the left-hand side. You can see the cast mark go all the way through. This was never installed in a rifle. It came from a piece of paper that I had. That's a type 3 cast. Now, they're talking over here about the staking. Once it's on the rifle, what does the staking look like? There's no marks for this one, so it would be a number 1. Number 2 is a straight line across. That right there, straight line across. Number 3, this X pattern for a front sight I have never seen, but obviously it would look something similar to this, and then obviously at an angle. And then the last one, type 4. Let's see if I can, actually this is a good one here. You can see right around the edge here, it's been hit to make it smaller so the pins don't come out. Okay. Now, still with the front sights, we're going to go off to the right-hand side. It's going to talk about a ridge. That was the ridge I just showed you. Of course, I can't find it now, right? Ah, here it is. So what they're referring to is this ridge right here. Is it present or not? Number 1. If it is, check it off. Grooves. No, that wasn't the groove. This is the grooves. This is the grooves that they're talking about. They're cut to the left and to the right. It's up here. Some of them are more prominent than others. But if you see a groove, that's what they're talking about. Number 2, check that one. Number 3 is a valley. So the absence of the ridge and it's valleyed and it's milled out. That's number 3. Usually indicative of Saginaw, Michigan. Thumbnail. I had to get one out of the cabinet. Not all Winchesters were thumbnailed, but this is what they're talking about. The ridge is gone. It's not completely flat in there, but there's a semicircle curve in there. That's what they call a thumbnail. Number 4. Check that off. Slope only, I've only really seen on stamped. So this block in here, this whole area is totally flat, and then it's at a 90-degree angle to this back part. That's no slope, number 6, versus anything else with a slope. So this area right here is called a slope. Some of them have just slopes only. This one does not. If it has just a slope only, check 5. If it's squared off like this and flat, that's no slope. Okay. Now, front sights are also marked. Sometimes. Sometimes they're marked at the top, in here, along the ridge, along this side, or along this side. Some are marked on the left. So RIA, or with a number. It could be a small number or a large number. Or on the right-hand side, there's the L type for a Winchester. And some of them are on the front. Oop, wrong one. This one. Some of them are marked on the front. Some Underwoods are marked here, .U. Also, just wanted to point out some of the Some of the ones that are made that are stamped are up a little higher. EU. I've seen all the markings on the right hand side here, except for the L for that Winchester. One thing of note that I do want to talk about, I didn't bring it out. Well, I'll just show you basically. Sometimes there's a mark here, and then there's the same mark over here. Just be cognizant that it might be marked twice, annotated on the back. That's where you find all your markings for your front sights. We talked about everything in the front sight now. Now we're going to move to rear sights. So the rear sight, they're asking, is it a leaf sight? So a leaf sight is this, commonly called a flip sight. This is the first version. So the first thing they want to know is what type of staking does it have? Very similar to the other one. This one has a little outer ring. So you would check off number 4 for the rear sight. I have seen the X's, and it's on quality hardware sometimes. GE-Q. I didn't bring it out. GE-Q. I have never seen this cross left to right one for a rear flip sight or leaf sight. Not yet. And sometimes you don't have anything. Okay. Now for rear sight markings. Sometimes on the right hand side you have markings. This one's the manufacturer mark. That's the right hand side. On the left hand side, you usually have an S. Doesn't always correspond that way. They say left and right. It's as you see it from the gun. So if it's sitting in the gun on the left hand side, as the bullet goes away from you, usually you'll see an S, but it's not always the case. Sometimes they do screw it up when they put them in the factories, and the S will be on the right hand side. Whatever it is on the gun, annotated on the paper for the rear sights. So also on the leaf portion, this one we got a good example. W-I. So that is on the short portion. So this is, the barrel would be to the right, the way we're viewing right now, and the butt would be to the left. That one happens to be there. I have seen some here. Actually, I'm sorry, not there. Here as well. This is the long range flipped up. It'll stand up taller. I have seen marks there. Just annotate the marks. If it comes out and there's marks in the bottom, write down the marks in the bottom, but don't go looking for them if it's stuck in there. Look really carefully. Try to draw the same exact S that you see. You can see this one is different looking than that one. I would try to draw it as similar as possible. Winchesters, sometimes they're squared. Put it down. Sometimes there's a squiggly line after an S. Put it after the S if you see it. Those are the leaf sights. Now we're going to talk about, let's see if we get the over here. Yeah, over here, snapper head. There we go. Now we're going to talk about the adjustable milled. So this is adjustable for elevation and windage. Most of them are marked on the right hand side. Not all, but most are. Be very careful. It may be very small, hard to see. You may have 2 marks in there. I have seen a few marks on the left hand side. Look carefully. If it comes out and there's a mark on the bottom, write that down. Also talk about if there's any missing parts to it. Sometimes this is V-notch. Sometimes actually the Leaf ones, maybe the Bavarians, would cut into it, make a V out of it, annotate those on the back. That is a milled. The adjustable stamped is basically the same, except it's made out of sheet metal. Different to the milled. You can see the fold marks in the corner right here. The knob itself is a lot bigger, a lot more to grasp. Instead of a screw, it's a nut that's put on and peened over where it can't be taken out. But generally it's for the same ranges. Same things apply here. What do you see? Do you see the part name? And this one has a part number. Put it the same way that you see it on the paper. If there's anything on this side, put the markings from this side. I have not seen anything on the bottoms of these. Okay, so we went through everything that we can on the rear sights, and we talked about the barrel bands. If you have any questions, put it below in the comments. I'll get to them as best I can, and glad to do more videos for you guys. I'll do more sections in a moment. Thanks.